And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome, my name is Hugo Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. Oh, unplug the USB because for some reason the Bluetooth USB, because that always messes with the sound. It's great to see you all. Great to see so many people already in here. Thank you for keeping me company. It is 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time, as it is the same time every week that I'm here. And yeah, great to see. We've already got, looks like we got DJ Sunny Side Up in here first, our man from Kochi. Nice to have you in here, as always. Been thinking a bit tonight about what to do for the after party. I actually got the table extender, so I might try this camera shot standing up. I'm hoping it might give a better view of like the mixing setup. Trying to figure that out. I do want to do it with one camera. Two cameras I can do, but it's just, you know, it's a bit of a pain. But yeah, I also have been thinking for the after party. This is really more for the after party stuff. But I bought a ton of music today. Apart from I went through just on a binge of listening and buying music, all on Apple Music. I also went through the last few shows and all the music that you all picked, and picked some tracks out that I wanted to buy. By buying the tracks, I can stream and play anything that I want, and I pay the monthly subscription for that. But by paying for the tracks, I can use my software where I can like extract the audio, the vocals or the beats or whatever. I can do more cool sort of mixing with that. So I've done a ton of that today. And so I was thinking for the after party, yeah, rather than have it like all, sometimes, you know, I want to put I decide I want to take over the mix. Like I want to play, you know, some of my own music. I think the right way to do it is to have like a left channel be, you know, your choice and right channel be my choice. And that way it's kind of fun. I can kind of try to match whatever people are putting up there. So anyway, just a thought on that. So DJ Sunny Side Up, you as much or more than anyone, hope that you make it to that anyway. Shubhas, second man from Panama, good to have you in here. Dan H, it is butter o'clock indeed. It's butter boom. Butter o'clock. The last part doesn't make any sense, but it is that time. Good to have you as always. We've got Yoni, our man from Finland, in. Good to have you in here. Seb can't join the live working. Sorry to hear that. Well, you know, you don't have to watch the recorded thing either, of course. I'm glad if you do. Say hello if you do. Seb, I always love having you actually in the after party because you make such great track recommendations. Like I think probably you've got the highest percentage of tracks that I went and bought after. So do appreciate it, and good to have you in here as always. Cobras Tenshi, Sixth Sense. Yeah, why not? I went and saw that movie. It's kind of funny. I was seeing some random YouTube video the other day talking about sort of myths that everyone believes, including that humans only have 5 senses. And they pointed out, you know, like technically in terms of biology, things that meet the definition of a sense, we have like hundreds. We have like hunger, we have like, you know, dehydration, we have all kinds of different, you know, sort of physical senses in our body, way more than just like touch and, you know, all this sort of stuff. But indeed, that's also kind of a funny thing in Australian comedy to say, yeah, I have a 5th sense about this sort of thing. Anyway, there you go. We've got 7th, but nth will do. I think Void Theft. Nice to have you in here again. Yeah, and great to have you. Sorry to hear about the toothache. I was just commenting in the comments there that depending on where you're coming from, there are certainly places in Europe which may even, I mean, Japan, you have to pay like $2 or whatever. It is like super cheap, like any sort of medical care pretty much, including dentistry. Generally, the neighborhood I'm in has like dentists on every corner. So yeah, if you need to get the toothache looked after, I know on a Sunday, on a weekend, it's tough, they're all closed, but hopefully tomorrow, yeah, you'll be able to go and get it looked at and take care of that. I'm very sorry to hear that. Glad that you've got some water on you. And take care. Natalie, thank you for leaving a wave. Nice to have you here in the chat. As always, again, remember, by the way, you can give me comments, you can give me requests for topics, all that sort of stuff. I will sit here and talk about anything. I've had kind of a busy week. I haven't been keeping up with the Japanese news or the international news, actually, as well as I really should have. So you may well actually give me topics that I might not know very well. But of course, I'm here to give you the vibe of what I've been seeing and my take on it. And there have been some interesting stories, so I do have good topics lined up for tonight. Actually, this is the time when I hear that the sound isn't working. I should actually skip ahead and make sure Okay, it looks like nobody's saying that there's no sound, so that's good. I've just realized now I'm getting to the comments that started after the live started. And I've done this where I've talked for 5 minutes, and then all the comments from the live started said, dude, there's no sound. That happens. Or sometimes I find out that it's not even streaming, because you actually have to click twice for this thing. I should sort that out. I should fix that. I plan to fix that. Anyway, moving on. We've got fighting the tech squirrels. Indeed, that is what I do. I fight squirrels. Speaking of which, I've been Muay Thaiing a bit again. I actually had a really great session the other day where I didn't run beforehand, so I actually had like full energy, which is kind of unusual. Yes, middle-age problems. My frozen shoulder, which I went and started to get treated for it basically in about like February or January. So I've been going twice a week for sports rehab on my shoulder, and it was like I couldn't move it, and it was like sore. It was really, really bad, and it'd been getting worse for nearly a year, and I just left it. And it was at a point I couldn't use my left arm for anything. It was really bad, and I had to give up like a lot of sports and stuff like that. And yeah, lovely lady has been fixing my shoulder twice a week for months now, and it's just about back. It's at the point I can do press-ups with it now, and I've got almost full rotation. I mean, pretty much full rotation. I can now like throw hooks and so on, which I couldn't do before, even when it was getting better. So yeah, now I'm fully back into it. Now the rehab lady is saying build strength, do weights and stuff like that, which I don't normally do, but I've been using like water bottles to do like arm raises with my left arm. So now I'm kind of like, because I used to do a lot of calisthenics in addition to running to get like strong overall, and I've just been running, and running's great, but and I don't want to get like a big upper body or anything like that. I like to just be like functional, but yeah, it's kind of fun. Now I've got like a green light pretty much to go back to building up and getting sort of overall strong again. It's kind of fun anyway. So medical stuff, what can you do? So well, anyway, catching up, we've got Tanom. Good to see you, Tanom. As always, once again. Actually, we've got to catch up again as well. I've been a bit busy lately, but yeah, I enjoy meeting you up for lunch. If any of you are ever visiting Tokyo and want to meet up for lunch, I do that. I'm not abroad in Japan. I'm not overwhelmed if I say invite me for lunch. It's only happens once every couple of months. But yeah. I hope that you are well, Tadom, and coping with the heat. Project X01. Good to have you in here once again. Hello to you. And hello to everybody. Aaron, our wonderful moderator, in here as always. Hey. Good to see you. Yuri the best, rocking in from Ukraine. Good to have you in here. As always, great to see you every week. I do appreciate it. Dan H, do I think the yen will continue to strengthen? I am not informed on this whatsoever. I actually just saw on Twitter, I've been missing the news this week, I saw it got to like 141. So I've been talking about how it got to like 160 and it kind of sat there. And then every time the BOJ would intervene, the Bank of Japan, I suddenly realized when I said BOJ out loud that could be misinterpreted by people who didn't know that means Bank of Japan. Thank heavens they put no in the middle. The Bank of Japan, when they intervened, it went to 150, but then it bounced right back to 160. It did suddenly strengthen, however, when for the first time in 15 years, the Bank of Japan started actually raising interest rates. It's been almost like negative interest rates for a time, and this has been part of the sort of Abenomics of sort of pump priming in Japan, which hasn't really worked. So as soon as they actually announced that they were, still low by international standards, but that they were raising interest rates on government bonds or whatever it is, the yen without intervention jumped a lot. And I think that compared to what's happening overseas, it is all of a sudden. And so I guess if you're a tourist at the moment and you've budgeted based on a yen of like 150 to 155, which I think would be reasonable, suddenly finding that everything, is 140 equates to not quite a 10%, but, everything feeling a bit more expensive. Honestly, the way prices are set, though, having been back and forth with Australia and America, even at 140, even at 130, everything in Japan is still undervalued and cheap, but it's just not quite as ridiculously, absurdly cheap as it was. Do I think it will continue to strengthen? The things that caused it to strengthen remain true. The change in the interest, I don't know if it's going to top out or hit a certain point, and I don't know that it's necessarily going to go the way to 110. Seems to me, though, in the absence of anything else sort of changing, I don't see why the trend wouldn't continue anyway, but who knows? what Forex traders think late at night on their own. Believe in yourself. Great to see you, and nice of you to say hello to everybody like that. Eater. Nice to have Eater, a man from Denmark once again. Dan H, mass riots going on in the UK at the minute. Actually, so when I was just before the show, when I was like going through my Twitter topics, I made the mistake of doom scrolling the home feed, and I got locked in for half an hour, and I saw the riots. I didn't even know what they were talking about at first. But it's news that I suppose I should know about, and I'll read through a news service, but to see it through social media posts where both sides are just designed to enrage, sometimes both sides at the same time. Like the home feed is just designed algorithmically to favor content that makes people angry and makes them click on it, and I clicked on it. So I went back afterwards, and every account which recommended which showed vids of the riots, I went back and said, don't show me this stuff to Twitter. I'll watch it in summary form. It's depressing and outrageous, and all the worst things that you don't want to think about. I mean, I realize it's a minority of people sort of doing it, but there again, I mean, I do hope that the police sort it out, and they sort it out with prejudice, against the people that are, basically literally just race riots from at least what I've seen. But again, I've seen stuff which is sort of designed to be as inflammatory as possible. So yeah, pretty awful stuff happening in the UK. Hopefully, I don't know, is it just restricted to a couple of cities? It seems to be multiple cities, which is also more alarming. But and the Middle East, of course, is going to hell at the moment as well. So there's all of that. But again, the purpose of this show is that if you're depressed with the news in your country, enjoy the world from the perspective of perhaps a slightly more peaceful place, Japan. I mean, at least for the most time, and that's what I'm going to show, rather than get into the realms of the rage social media commentary of the Middle East, American politics, or racism or whatever. But we'll see. I mean, sometimes you can't help but avoid it. It looks pretty horrific. Resistance training, best return on investment of any exercise. Yeah, I know. Actually, I kind of do that. I do old-fashioned press-ups and crunches and stuff, but it's fundamentally types of resistance training. I don't like weights. I get bored. That's why I go running. I can go sightseeing, which I know isn't considered like the best form of exercise, but it's fun. So there we go. Anyone, Swordfish, good to see you. Well, got so many people in here already. And I love that you're all saying hello, so please already do that. Japan is extremely cheap compared to Europe, especially Norway and Denmark. Yeah, I remember the old joke like from years ago, how cans of Coke were like $13 in Norway. Japan, I mean, Japan was expensive when I got here. One of the reasons I decided to come to Japan after university, after high school, was I came to Japan. I love Japan, but coming from New Zealand to Japan, I was so poor. I was kind of limited. Everything was on a budget, and I felt like if I came to Japan and earned money in Japan, then I could afford just like all these local people. Tourism in Japan was something only Japanese local people did, because it was sort of so expensive and so inaccessible, and yet it was so cool. So my whole idea was I wanted to come to Japan, work for a Japanese company, earn Japanese money, so that I could unlock the secret kingdom of Japan, which nobody else could do, and then I would be able to afford it and be rich if I ever wanted to go bail and go back to New Zealand. It hasn't really worked out like that. Now anyone can come to Japan, and being rich and bailing back to New Zealand is less and less an option, because people are richer back in New Zealand now. But yeah, that was a thing. Sainted Sir, good morning, New York City. Good to have you in here. We've got Anyone Swordfish has a thing. Read an interesting article about how Japan dominated volleyball in 1970 due to new technology and training. What sports do I think Japan will be good at in the future? Interesting. I know that in the 70s there was a huge cultural boom around volleyball. And of course, you think of volleyball as being traditionally tall people. So you'd think the Serbians and the Croatians and, I don't know, the Dutch and so on. Countries with a reputation for having exceptionally tall people would excel at it. But yes, in spite of not necessarily having that reputation, there is definitely a thing in Japan even now that if you ever meet a woman taller than like 170 centimeters, or I guess about 5'7" or 5'8", they almost universally are like filtered into playing volleyball. So because it's so popular, there is a huge uptake for that. That's also why I think Japan is and continues to be sort of successful in terms of popular sports like baseball, soccer, Volleyball is one of them, especially for women, that it's such a huge population and such a big infrastructure that people get funneled and picked up to go into those sports, which makes Japan even stronger. The thing is, well, though, is that because Japan has such a nerd culture, and and it also has such a large population, it also means Japan is pretty good at producing athletes in sports nobody's ever heard of. So, for example, when they introduced like skateboarding and breakdancing and stuff, and into the Olympics, you find out that Japan's like straight up ready to get the gold in these. Which might, sort of be surprising for the reputation. So Japanese are kind of really good at niche sports, but in terms of like major sports, I don't know. Like I think Japan will get stronger at rugby. I think Japanese, because they train any sport which requires like mastery of training to death to perfection on technical things. I think there's something about the culture here that it's not that Japanese are inherently good at that. It's that the culture sort of values this kind of artisanal culture of people who sort of chip away and work hard and train over and over until they master something. Video games, I mean, seriously, if you got esports, Japan not allowing professional esports, of course, meant that Korea and so on really took that over, and Japan never got into that. But before there was esports, there's no question that the best Street Fighter players in the world and the best like fighting video game players in the world were all Japanese. I do think stuff like that they'd be good at. It's kind of funny. It doesn't surprise when Japan turns out to be good at sports like shooting, even though no one's allowed to shoot in Japan. So I don't know, anything like that. This is why Japan does well at rugby. Even when their scrum, for example, is a smaller size than countries like New Zealand, they don't lose the scrums, or at least not usually. It's because their technique is really good. So, but all of that said, doom scrolling, indeed, Aaron. You know what? I consider myself at least self-aware about using the internet, and Instagram I think is the most dangerous. Like those algorithms are really powerful. They know what makes most people click, and normally it's rage baiting. And they specifically follow you and what you pause on, like what you'll even stop to look at, and they'll show you more of that. And it's really psychologically unhealthy. This is why if you do use Twitter, which I do, I never look at the home feed. I have my curated lists, which are public. You can follow them yourselves, or recommended Twitter accounts to follow. And I only follow lists of accounts and the content of accounts that I know post stuff that's interesting and worth reading. The home feed, sometimes you find something good in it, but you become overwhelmed immediately by just scary, scary, horrible stuff. Lara, Mutsuyo, good to have you in here. Glad that you could make it. And everybody else. Wow, the whole gang is here. Who else is here? Quickly scrolling through. It is 10:48 p.m. We haven't even started yet. So I am going to jump straight in and let's go into the topics. Yes, indeed. I just spent 30 minutes doom scrolling the home feed. Do not look at the home feed. It's the final scene of Indiana Jones opening the Ark. Look away, close your eyes, open your eyes, and that it's all over. Today, actually, so last week, because you noticed when I was talking, I had this kind of ticklish cough. I had it for 4 weeks. I had a really mild cold, and this thing wouldn't go away. And I was thinking maybe running was making it worse, so I didn't run all week. And it didn't make any difference whatsoever. I was hoping I'd stop running, it would get better, then I'd run. And so I just gave up today. I felt I want to exercise. So I went out for a run today. It's a beautiful day. I actually took out the camera for the first time in a while. Not a bad pace, actually, but slow for me. I try to run faster than 5 minutes per kilometer. My app said that I was using less effort than usual. Got out the action camera. It's kind of fun. Again, if you follow my Instagram, I post these on there. Also, I post a drum and bass music track, which I remixed. I mashed 2 tracks together, and it came out sounding really, really good. 50 seconds, kept it short. But running along the river. Super hot. This was in the morning. It was already like 32 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it was hot. It was hot running over the concrete. I had to stop at a convenience store at about the halfway mark, a bit before the halfway mark, and I went into the air conditioning and bought some cold water, which I was carrying. Which you can see in the picture there. In fact, there it is. That was like at the 2 kilometer mark. You need to do that. It's fun. It's great to go outside, but summer in Japan, still nothing to be messed with. It was like 36 degrees today where I am, which is like punch you in the face heat. Just horrible. And it's Tokyo, so it's all concrete. There's not enough shade. So you just try not to go outside. The days are getting shorter, so hopefully it's going to get more tolerable soon, but we've still got a solid month of it just being like, do not come here. It'll get better soon anyway, but those are picked. That's me running today. So earlier this week, Did I mention this last week? It was this week that I did this. I entered the lottery as an international runner for the Tokyo Marathon in 2025. So I think that's in March next year. So if you can register with an overseas address, if you're ever interested in doing this, there's a thing that if you have an overseas address and an overseas passport, you can enter it as an international runner, and you get a lottery ahead of the general entry, and it increases your statistical. There's so many people apply under the general lottery to try to run in the Tokyo Marathon. If you apply as an international runner, you improve your odds because basically you're in a smaller lottery, so there's a higher percentage. And if you fail, if you don't make the lottery in the first round, your entry gets added to the general entry, and then you get another shot at the lottery. So I'll know at the end of the month. I've never applied for any marathon in my life before. For me, what really appeals to me is it's half. I like the idea of being able to complete a marathon, but even more than that, just the ability to sightsee around Tokyo, running around the roads where you can't normally walk. That appeals to me just as much. That's what I like about running. So fingers crossed, we'll wait and see. Of course, Joseph Tame, he's the king of the Tokyo Marathon. He live streams through the whole thing with the whole body camera robo kit on. I don't know I'd go that far, but I must admit, if I did get the entry, I'd be really curious about setting up my 360 camera so I could stream live while I was running the Tokyo Marathon and share it with you folks. That'd be really cool. And it'd be kind of it's long and painful, so I think I'd appreciate a simplified version of what Joseph does anyway. But first things first, we'll see how I go. I'll let you know if I get into that. But otherwise, I'm going to keep looking for. Yeah, it's actually fun doing just having goals. And Tokyo is beautiful to run around. There are some really good running spots. And I've found some good courses where I am. This is cool. Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. They didn't use CG. They actually got an actor for it. But the making of it is pretty cool. Okay, we've got to talk about Yusuf Dikec. Actually, Sadiq isn't here, our man from Turkey who lives in Florida. But I don't know if he's catchy at all. I know it's not just Japan that he's has gone viral, but in Japan, he's gone super viral, and it summarizes things that I like about Japan and actually about the Olympics as well. Auntie Liana from Yokohama, Auntie L, good to have you in here. Let's go YouTube, indeed. Yes, Lara's been experiencing the heat by the sounds of it. Sounds terrible. Went to dinner with a friend. Okay, well, hope you enjoyed that. But yeah, the evening, actually, I went out for dinner as well. I took my son out for dinner. It's nicer in the evening. There's a bit of a breeze today. In a way, I wish I'd run in the evening, but it was nice to actually see the sun. And it's the humidity, indeed. It just comes in off the ocean here. It's just for these few months. It becomes dry all of a sudden in September and wonderful, but until then, it's just miserable. Hopefully, I win the lottery. Yeah, the lottery where I get to basically torture myself and break my own legs over 3 hours. But to me, yes, that would be winning the lottery. It's a 1 in 6 chance in general. So we'll see. Seems a little odd that you apply as an international runner as a long-term Japan resident. I know, okay, yes, I get it. I know Japanese people, and I don't know how because I had to show my passport to be able to apply as an international runner. Every international runner, even people who are Japan residents, I think everyone that I know that does apply. I even know Japanese people who have family living overseas who use their family address to apply as international runners to do to get into the Tokyo Marathon. So, yes, as a permanent resident, you might say it's a bit sus, but I know Japanese citizens who have been able to swing it as well. So, yeah. Kubris Tenshi, there's a lottery for the Bandmade concert. Well, you're always recommending Bandmade stuff, and yeah, I kind of get it. I'm becoming sort of a fan, so I do sincerely hope that you get that. Where is the concert being held in Tokyo? Is it going to be at a big venue? I kind of miss going out actually to clubbing and events. It's something I wish I could do more. But yeah, Dan H saying the same thing twice there. It seems a little bit odd that I could apply as an international runner. Well, but I am international, and I think what they're trying to do as well, they like to encourage. It helps the profile of the of the race itself. It is a big 6 marathon in the world now. It's considered that, I think. Or a 6-star race, I think they call it. But yeah, it helps improve the international profile when there's a large international presence. So they want to maximize the numbers of international people, which yes, I spend all this time explaining that I'm not. But if I can use it, I'm going to use it. And I do have an address overseas, and I can use it. So there we go. DJ Sunny Side Up, did I watch Lex Friedman interviewing Elon Musk recently? Yes, I did. I watched it for about, I watched it sped up to double speed for about 30, 40 minutes. And then I stopped. It was an 8.5 hour long interview with Elon. And I really didn't find the conversation going anywhere interesting. There's sort of interesting stuff there. If Elon never spoke publicly and occasionally just gave interviews like this, but if he didn't have a Twitter account, just based on what he's achieved, like, PayPal, SpaceX, Hyperloop, everything else, I would think that he's a cool guy, and I would even allow him if in private it turns out that he has strong opinions that I might disagree with. I'd even give him a pass on that. I don't care. What annoys me is that now, because he's so public himself on and so political about so many things, it just means that and not just the politics, he just comes across, the more I hear him speak, the more I see him as an asshole who's not who pretends to be smarter than he is. And the thing is, he's objectively a smart person who has done great things, and I respect what he has done, and I would like him if I knew less about him. And I'd probably even watch the whole Lex Friedman thing if I'd never seen his Twitter account. But after about like 30 or 40 minutes of hearing him talk, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I've heard enough Elon Musk. I do still actually sit in and I listen to long interviews and talks by him, because again, I love the things that his companies do, including Neuralink, which they were talking about, and it's interesting technology. But yeah, I have trouble taking the guy, so, and this is why I actually have more time in a way for some of the other big billionaires who I know less about, because I don't want to know what I know about Elon Musk. I don't want him to tell me, that's where I am with him. Zep Tokyo, okay, that's a good event. Hyperloop failed. Well, yeah, as I understand, it's not buried, but it's not going. And I mean, Solar City, there's a ton of Elon businesses that aren't going to full expectation, but they're not dead. It feels like so Dan H, you're right. It feels like a snake oil salesman, and the Neuralink does as well. But the thing is, he chases these outlandish sort of goals, and he doesn't hit all of them, but he hits. Like where he has hit, it is amazing. He's got rockets that are reusable and land vertically, and he's going for Mars, and I think he's going to do it. He's not going to do it on the timelines that he promised or anything like that. He popularized electric cars, where for 20, 30 years, car companies, electric cars never got popular. And then he made Teslas the most popular car in America. Now his personality is going to make Teslas not the most popular car in America. But if he had just shut the hell up, Teslas would still be the top car company in America out of the blue. You think of all the failed car companies over the decades that have been shut down by the big three. So I don't know, but again, the more he puts himself out there, the more you sort of realize that, it's really the hard work of the people in those companies that he gets to invest in and represent than him, although he takes the credit for it. He does it a little bit too much. So I'm kind of the same. I'm a little bit, the less I pay attention to Elon or know about him, the more I like him. And I feel like I know too much about him. Anyway, this man, Yusuf Dikec, I assume everybody here knows who he is. He's the Turkish Ojisan. So many of the memes. This is kind of in reverse order as well. This is like the last one that I posted, but I like this one. It turns out, so, I mean, for those of you, does anyone not know about this person anymore? Basically, where the shooting event was something where there were some Korean and there were some, the shooters. When people see it in the Olympics, they've got this, you're allowed to wear prescription glasses, and like the rules are all there, but of course everybody tries to figure out how to maximize. It's like me entering the Tokyo Marathon. Everybody takes the rules and then maximizes their possibility and advantage that they can take within that. So people are wearing this sort of crazy sophisticated eyewear. There are people wearing body frames and carbon frames to sort of hold their arms steady, and all these sort of crazy clothes. And yeah, there was a comment that there was a Korean women's gold medalist, looked like a sort of anime assassin character. And everyone was talking about how cool she looked, like just the energy when she walked on was like, oh, main character energy. And then the men's competition comes up, and of all these people who are like overly embellished with these sort of leather clothes and body frames and outlandish like eye gear and stuff, this grey-haired Oji-san, who kind of could pass as a kind of Japanese salaryman, like kind of a look, he just walks up, regular glasses, t-shirt, hand in pocket, and just pulls out the gun. He wins the silver medal. He wipes out everybody but one person. And there's something, with the Olympics, I guess in the days when there was not internet entertainment and everyone would just sit in the living room and watch the TV all day, and the TV is dominated by Olympics. So I grew up where when the Olympics were on, it was all that you would watch for a couple of weeks. And I actually kind of miss that, honestly, and I could do it, but I don't, because I have other things, and I like the internet, I suppose. But also one thing, as a kid, as a Gen X kid, as a kid who grew up in, the elementary school in the 80s and the early 90s, high school in the early 90s, to me, I remember in the 80s, there was a really big deal about the way that they taught us in school about the Olympics and the way that media treated the Olympics. That the Olympics was generally, it had to be amateur. It had to be regular people who just practiced really hard. And there was always this idea that participation was key, good sportsmanship was key. And they were selling the dream that when you were supporting athletes from New Zealand or Australia, they were regular. They were plumbers and, government workers and regular folks from your hometown who, and it could have been you. And there was this kind of idea that this sort of democratized thing that the Olympics was all about, this idea of that, anyone, kids can dream, anyone can dream of being this. And there's something that I think happened during the 90s when the Olympics started to forgive professionalism, and I'm okay with forgiving professionalism. Traditionally, amateurism in the Olympics was all about keeping it exclusive to wealthy people who could afford to practice sports and not have to work in the coal mines during the week. It was a way, basically, for rich Europeans to to sort of do sports and represent their countries, and not have working class people who basically needed to be. So, for example, working class sports like rugby league and soccer, they had to pay them. And so and because they were professional and they trained professionally, and the people who ran the Olympics and so on didn't want to compete against people who, working class people, they made it amateur. So only rich people could afford to do it. I mean, there are sports in the Olympics. You can only really be a gold medalist at polo if you basically play polo from when you're 5 years old. And so if you're from a family which has a pony and a polo course, you've got a certain advantage for that most regular people never aspire to. So, there was this kind of, so while getting rid of amateurism, I was in favor of, because it kind of has an effect of democratizing the types of sports. At the same time, when you took that out, all the kind of ideals associated with it of participation and equality and all those sort of things sort of went out. It became sort of hyper-competitive. And I guess the Olympics have also always been hyper-nationalistic. But I really feel like it's really switched to the coverage and the talk about it since 2000, to me, has been all about, one, only our country matters. And it's really win at all costs. And the athletes are not normal people. The athletes are superstars. They're, all the marketing, everything builds these people up as people who are different to you and me. They're like our champion. They're sort of cyber bot or something. They're not. They're not regular people. I don't know. I find that off-putting, and it puts me off really wanting to watch a lot of Olympics. Although, again, it is nice when you watch the Olympics and you see a lot of nice personalities and people and whatever, and the humanity of it. But what I really love is that for where Japan is doing what Japan does, if you're watching the Olympics in Japan, all you would see is judo right now, and you'd think that judo is the only thing happening at the Olympics and it's the most important sport. If you're in America, you might think that whatever it is, I mean, America gets the most medals anyway, but all the sports that they have, like swimming and so on, if you're watching from New Zealand, you'd think the only thing happening is rowing. We got a gold. New Zealand is the thing that we have a small population, so we always get, when you make medals per capita population, New Zealand always comes near the top, except we get screwed because Fiji got a silver medal and they've got a much smaller population than us. So I think just Fiji getting any medal wipes New Zealand out on that ranking. But countries focus on what they're good at, and it's always win at all costs. And I don't like that. So again, when you have this sort of over commercialized, the fact you have this person walk up in a t-shirt and regular glasses with his hands in his pocket and he just shoots straight, no body frame or anything like that. He wins a silver medal. The memes in Japan, the champion of the guy who plays video games without paying for just on the freemium account, being the first meme among others. There's another one that I like. There's which I'll show later on. And when Japanese found out that he owns a cat that he likes, and that going super, all the people writing, drawing cartoons and stuff of him. And for me, the fact that he's a Turkish guy who's like the biggest hero in Japan right now, he's going to have to come and do some sort of a talking tour here. And this is another thing as well, by the way, the relationship between Turkey and Japan I've talked about before. Is that there was a Turkish ship that got shipwrecked in Japan like 100 years ago, and no one in the world outside of Turkey or Japan has ever heard of it. But the story is that the Japanese locals sort of saved the Turkish crew, and they looked after them so well that the Turks went back to Turkey and said, Japanese are the best people in the world. And like every time, and Japan and Turkey don't have much connections, but whenever Turkish diplomats met Japan, even 100 years later, they say, we still really appreciate how well you looked after those Japanese sailors. Japan's the best. And Japan loves being loved for its hospitality. So Japan's always like, no, you the man. And so basically, Turkey and Japan have had this you the man diplomacy, which just means that there is this weird, in spite of lack of many connections, they have this super warm, friendly relationship with no bad side whatsoever in either direction. So again, for Japan, the idea that the hero, salaryman, middle manager, shooting silver medalist happens to be Turkish as well, just plays into the whole thing as well, that this is just an awesome person from a country of awesome people, just being awesome and regular. And this is the sort of hero that I want from the Olympics. And this is maybe something about the internet that I like. If we were just watching TV, no one would probably ever pay attention to a guy who stands out for appearing to be so Joe average, whereas the internet can sort of pick out, and the Japan internet goes crazy for finding out these sort of minutiae, right? And I do like that about Japan, and I guess I do like that about the internet, that would probably never have paid any attention to this person. Like no TV editorial box is ever going to pay attention to someone for being excessively plain, right? They're going to talk about the people who have these crazy sort of records and stuff like that. But I do love being in a country where the internet, and not just Japan, of course, but where everybody raves over how average he is. At the same time, of course, John Wick indeed. And the meme here, if anything ever happens to that cat, we're going to get 4 movies out of this guy. The John Wick likeness is also coming out. If you've seen videos of him being interviewed, I've even seen some AI ones where they convert his speaking Turkish into English. But even you just listen to it in Turkish, just listen to his voice and the way that he speaks. He seems like a really nice guy. Very, very glad to see he got the silver anyway. So, yeah, that was cool. We have make the Olympic Games amateur again. See, I don't really think make them amateur again. I'm okay with them being professional, and I realize the elitism associated with the amateurism, but at the same time, I think we tossed out a lot of the idealism that was linked to amateurism that I would prefer to keep with, while allowing professional athletes to participate. It's complicated, and it's a pipe dream now because everything is so marketing oriented and about, hyping up everybody. But, yeah, Dan H hasn't watched the Olympics, so there you go. Tell us your headband without telling us your headband. Indeed. Just going back. Have I seen the stickers Tesla owners put on their cars bought before he knew he was an arsehole? I have not heard of that, but I tell you what, in Seattle, when I went to Seattle 2 years ago, nothing but Teslas. When I went to Seattle a few months ago, you didn't see any Teslas anymore. He's just destroyed his own company, and I imagine if there was somebody driving a Tesla there now, they would probably put that sticker on. And that's it. All he has to do is be quiet, and he could just make billions. If I had a mouth that cost that much money, I guess he doesn't care. That's part of the personality. But exactly, Natalie. I see. Everybody's the hype crew for everybody else. Good to see that. Yes. Yudaman. No, Yudaman. That's basically a summary of the diplomacy between Turkey and Japan. And there are worse forms of diplomacy, right? I indeed hope that he can make something out of it. Seriously, I think just doing a TV celeb tour, just being on Japanese variety shows, where I understand you can get paid quite well, he'll do really well from that. They should totally fly him out. Dan H points out, yes, indeed, and I was trying not to touch on this topic, that there is a very large Kurdish population, specifically in Saitama. A lot of asylum seekers, which both raises the problem that Japan doesn't accept asylum seekers. And also there's been some friction in the towns where the Kurdish community is sort of grown there. Yeah. Japanese anti-immigration right wingers point to the Kurds as being an example of difficult immigration, but it's overall it's actually very good. Again, the scale of everything in Japan is different. But the fact that there's a bit of a dichotomy that Japan has such great relations with Turkey, while at the same time, of course, having a huge Kurdish population as well, and not really, and it's kind of good both ways. Turkey doesn't give Japan a hard time over Kurdish asylum seekers, which it does give other countries, of course, which have much more enormous Kurdish populations. But yeah, Japan has both. It has Kurdish communities as well as it has fantastic relations with Turkey, which is, I feel like that's a win-win anyway. I wish Japan would do better, actually, by the Kurds in terms of recognizing their asylum rights. But there we go. 20 minutes left. Oh, my God. I had a coffee at 5:30. I feel like that might be actually slowing me down. The faster I talk, the slower I get through the topics. Well, I mean, I had to talk about the Turkish John Wick. I mean, how could I not get sidetracked? Okay, everybody's having hydration drinks. I am going to take a deep breath. Let's keep going. People getting in trouble for live streaming at Disneyland. And I don't know that Disneyland has to be that uptight about it, but yeah, don't do that. I do like this appeals to my sense of the titles on NBC are not center justified, they're left justified. They're commenting, how can they justify this? I don't know. I think it's quite justifiable. They just have to click on that button to fix that. I like that stuff. This has been a huge news topic lately, and I want to be a little bit careful because this is close to home to my regular work. I work in a tech company. And even in this area, a lot of articles talking about how AI is destroying the world because they are using up so much electricity, which is the electricity is causing everybody to, it's destroying the grids and, enhancing climate change. Yes and no. Yes, it requires more electricity, and yes, most electricity right now is not climate friendly, although the grid is converting, but AI is accelerating the demand for electricity, which means that even when you've been increasing the amount of solar and renewable and wind and everything, it's not keeping the demand for electricity is increasing beyond that, which is some people are pointing out. And if you're just going for the cheapest electricity, for your huge power bill that you're going to have, you're not going to pay the extra amounts typically for renewable energy. However, what I will point out is that bigger tech companies, of which I may or may not have some connections to, are making a point that they are under the internal goals to make sure that they are only purchasing renewable energy and they are paying extra for it. And when that renewable energy is not available, they are paying the power companies and the power generation companies. They are creating additional power, renewable energy. So there is a perspective that so long as you are using these large data centers and so on that are being provided by companies that have these sort of publicly declared goals of having 100% renewable and climate friendly power sources, it means that tech is actually accelerating the conversion of the power grid into renewable energy, which is actually good for sort of climate change. It's actually kind of a net positive. So there is a flip side to that. It's not necessarily bad, and using AI is not necessarily bad, but you should check what sort of infrastructure it's running on. And it is a massive problem. I actually first heard about the electricity and water crunch issues that were coming. I heard about this like 6 or 7 years ago, and my mind was a bit blown at the time that, that before it was a real estate problem and it was a competition to build enough data centers, and we were told, yeah, right now it's a data center problem, but soon it's going to be like the grids themselves don't have enough capacity, and we have to, and everyone's been pre-investing and trying to stay ahead of that, and they still are scrambling, but it's crazy that we're at these sorts of problems, and AI has accelerated all of this. But yeah, I think the line that AI is bad for climate change is a bit too simplistic. I think if you're getting AI from the right places and in the right way, it's actually the money being generated by the AI is being used to pay for creating new renewable energy. It's being used to pay for new renewable energy, solar and wind farms. So, I feel like I have to say that because, yes, the media narrative is a little bit too simplistic. So, yeah, anyway. ChatGPT. When ChatGPT announced a few months ago, they had the talking to Scarlett Johansson. Oh, not talking to Scarlett Johansson, but everybody thought that they were. I don't really see a big problem. I mean, if she personally objected, sure, change the voice, but whatever. they showed that you could actually soon be able to talk to your version of her or whatever, have an AI that you could talk to. They've just started rolling that out, and because I pay for a ChatGPT account, I saw that and used that for the first time this week. The thing is, honestly, for most interfaces, you don't want to use a voice conversation interface. It looks cool. It looks like in the movies, but normally you want to be quiet and type and not have everyone around you hear what you're talking about with the AI. And it's slow. It's faster if it just puts out the text response. So normally you don't need this, but for specific things, and for me, the one that really jumps out is language learning. Like, for example, I've been wanting to revive my Spanish a bit. I've been watching some Spanish TV shows. So the ability, and I have a degree in Spanish, I just haven't used it for 20 years. So it's, to me, it's attainable to self-study to bring it back. So being able to get like a chat buddy who I can create a my GPT, I can give it a whole bunch of instructions. Like, let me, whenever I ask you, how do I say something? Tell me how I should say it as a man, saying it in this sort of context with the right grammar and right words, and then check me and, keep going in the conversation. You can sort of actually train your own conversation partner. So if you want to learn Japanese or any sort of, the thing that jumps out immediately is that because these are good at language, they are literally large language models. They're good at natural language. This really is going to be like transformational for language purposes, both for translation and for self-study and language learning. It just gives you an always on hand conversation buddy and teacher that you're going to be able to use whenever you want. It's wonderful. I've created a few tools that sort of use this function. I know it's going to be good for other things as well, but I think for self-study it's going to be really remarkable. And it's already so good, and it's just going to get better. It's really, I encourage everybody to have a look. I know other AI companies are going to bring out similar products soon, but the ChatGPT one is the best at the moment, and it really points to, I think, how not just like language learning is going to happen. I think this is how a lot of education is going to happen. I think this is like how kids are going to learn school subjects. They're going to have an AI that's going to be custom to their pace and their way of learning, and is going to help them learn, just like these ChatGPT demos were, and it's amazing. Even as it is now. Holding out for Mr. Fusion. I'm holding out for Mr. Fusion as well. Bill Gates is investing, but Bill Gates, Microsoft money. He's investing in some of the best shots at commercialized fusion energy are being funded by Bill Gates. So, again, it's not, tech can be good for that stuff as well. DJ Sunny said up, when will we be able to go on totally solar for our houses, apartments? There's a bit of a debate here. I saw some people who don't like the big solar farms that are being put all over mountains in Japan and cutting down trees to put them up, which I admit doesn't look good. It's not a good look, but it is the best way to get the amount of electricity that you need. Some people are saying that, you could just put solar panels on the roof for the whole apartment building, but you can't, that amount of area isn't really enough. There is an argument. I've seen calculus. Some channels try to do a thing where, okay, if you put solar panels on the roofs of every building in a city like Tokyo, the numbers say that you should be able to produce enough electricity. Well, there's a wide range of estimates, but there are people who say that if you just use the roofs of existing buildings, and indeed, if you put them over things like canals or whatever, which saves you from evaporation and saves water over like lake reservoirs and stuff like that, you could easily generate enough energy to meet the energy needs of a city like Tokyo. I've seen calculations that say that, but the power grid isn't set up for that. You need like high voltage power lines through the whole city, all sorts of other things. So I would like to see that, but at the moment you need the big solar farms. And I don't know. I mean, Japan, the amount of the other problem is, thank you, Aaron. Game on squirrels. I want to finish this because I used to be a renewable energy policy consultant. The problem with solar energy and wind energy is that it's intermittent. It's not there at nighttime. So the key to making everything run on solar is you need the ability to store it overnight so that you can overproduce during the day and use the extra overnight, so you don't have to use dirty types of power at night. And everyone says batteries, and you can use lithium batteries, and that's kind of all the boom. When I was looking at this, which was pre-lithium batteries, you'd actually just pump water into wells. You'd use the energy to pump water, and then you'd release it and generate like hydro generation from releasing the water from wells. And you can actually store like grid level power that way. So, there are things you can do to store, energy overnight, which allows you to keep installing more and more solar where you don't use it all. So I don't know. When will we be able to go totally solar? I think it's possible on within a 20-year timeline, 10-year timeline. It just depends on how much lawmakers want to really do that. And, you always want a range of solutions. Okay, all of this, 10 minutes. Let's go in. Tesla Cybertruck broke my Fortnite game. It seems to have fixed it today, but yes, I thought that was kind of funny that Elon stuff always has bugs, but there you go. Yeah, these AI music copyright companies, which always get destroyed by music industry lawyers. I don't like, but I respect music industry lawyers. I've worked on the opposite side, investing in companies that required music industry lawyer like approval, and they're evil but really good lawyers. And these companies that basically they train their AIs on a bunch of music. But there's a reason that there hasn't been many AI music startups. There have been art startups, there have been word startups, but not music startups. And it's because the lawyers from the music industry are the most scary. And those lawyers are right now targeting AI startups. And the AI companies and their legal teams are saying, hey, copying other music's just rock and roll. And as a lawyer, I really want them to succeed. But as a lawyer, I also think saying that that breaching copyright is just rock and roll is going to bury them. They're going to die. I wish them all the best, but that is not a smart way of going about that. Oh, DJ Sunny Setup, you're talking about solar-powered roofs. I just saw this today. I thought this was cool. There's a big floppy solar panel hat that you can wear that you can charge your phone with. And they point out if you're ever going like hiking or something like that, it's not only good like solar protection, but also you can use it to charge your devices when you run out of power, when you're out in nature and stuff like that. This is actually like, I've never seen this idea before. So it can charge 4,000 amps, which is basically the same as an iPhone, in 3 to 4 hours. It can develop that much charge. That's actually really, really, I mean, it's a huge hat, but you should wear huge hats nowadays anyway. You don't want to get cancer. So I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. Racing through. This is still 5 hours back into the past, and I'm trying to cover a whole week. And I have 8 minutes left. Japanese publishing companies, which I'll point out, have been lobbying against the AI industry in all sorts of ways in Japan. At the same time, realize, if I use AI to translate or assist translate novels, we can go and release a whole bunch of popular Japanese sort of small, like light novels that we never bother getting translated because you have to pay a lot of money. To translate books costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time, is a lot of effort. But actually, now that we have AI translation, we can just apply that to everything, and we can sell all this content overseas, where there's all these people overseas that want to buy this sort of content anyway. So we can cheaply produce slightly lower quality than professionally translated, but all this content, and make money off it. So even the publishing industry is realizing that, AI allows them to create, more material and stuff to sell. And I don't know how it's going to work exactly, but I think translation is now getting good enough that it's not great, but if it's clear that it's machine translated and it's going to be a lower quality and the buyer's okay with that, paying a lower price for it, making it cheap and more available, I think is great for the Japanese publishing industry. They're going to sell more stuff, and it's going to bring people into that world and want to read more stuff. So that's cool. And something that's not cool, the Boeing Starliner, the future of the U.S. space program. This is basically the successor of the space shuttle. This is Boeing that was behind, helped make the space shuttle. This was there. SpaceX has been killing it, and meantime, Boeing, 6 years late, billions of dollars over budget, finally flies their capsule up to the space station. And the rockets on it were all sort of misfiring and all sorts of problems with them. And they've been talking now and saying, we're just going to run some tests. We'll let them go back in a few days. The 2 astronauts on there have been stuck on the ISS for over a month, and no one's sure if it's safe to actually fly them back to Earth. And they're talking about even asking the Russians to help fly the Boeing passengers back because Boeing is just so crap. And again, Boeing is just becoming the flag child of late-stage capitalism, in my view. This idea from America that I see in all sorts of industries, how the insane priority to maximize profit at the expense of quality, or including quality of service, cutting costs to sort of maximize. It's like the shareholders are the most important, not the actual quality of work. Hearing all the stories about with the airliners, how, they save money by basically sort of pressuring people not to hold up on quality checks and stuff like that. And this is the end result of it. This is how it all falls apart. And it's kind of sad. And they've got this dilemma now. Do they show everything's okay by taking the astronauts back to Earth when, on a dodgy space capsule? But there again, if they lose it, if they die, I mean, that'll be pretty much the end of Boeing in the space industry, which I don't want to see. I just want Boeing to be as good as it used to be and not what it is right now. So yeah, speaking of solar stuff, DJay sunny side up. Typically, solar panels are about 15 to 20% efficient. But there's, again, some companies are finding some ways to change the formula of the materials on them to get 34% efficiency. That's like the yen. That's like 1.5 times more efficient, which, yeah, hell, we could probably do everything on rooftops like that. At the same time, there are not enough IC chips for Suica cards, which are like, on the one hand, Suica cards are awesome. They're just touch to pay, anything. You can go to most shops in Tokyo and use them now, trains, buses, anything. They're awesome. So they are convenient, but at the same time, I find lately going to shops and restaurants, you actually use the PayPay QR code, scanning pay. It's more shops have that, and at least if you have that, I don't need to carry cash on me, or I can leave my wallet at home if I want to run up the shops. But at the same time, I mean, IC chips are so basic. Just the fact that 2 years after the shortage first happened, that we still have a shortage is still ridiculous to me. Wales, 4 minutes left. Wales. That guy is Paul Watson. He is the founder of Sea Shepherd, which basically wanted to out Greenpeace. Greenpeace, by the way, Greenpeace is huge in New Zealand. I think there was a time where like 1/3 of the population of New Zealand was signed up paying Greenpeace members. My father was more of a redneck. He was in the military, and my piano teacher was very Greenpeace, which is also like anti-army, and they're also New Zealand should not have an army. So my dad is very much a nuke the whales for his political beliefs, and he would have polite debates with my piano teacher, I remember. But Greenpeace would always get attention by doing this sort of stunt type protest activism or whatever, including interfering with whale hunts. But for all the people in Greenpeace who thought Greenpeace were being too soft, they all went into Sea Shepherd, which pretty much went out with the explicit goal of, confrontation and basically going beyond where Greenpeace would kind of try tokenly to stay within the laws. Sea Shepherd went out specifically to go and ram boats and, break the law, and to the extent they interfered with the controversial but legal scientific whaling of Japanese ships. Yeah, again, what Paul Watson was doing in Greenland, a place which also does whaling, by the way, and totally would arrest him, and now they're asking Denmark. Japan has now formally asked Denmark to deport him. To Japan, or not to deport him, but to extradite him to Japan to face charges here. And while Japan is clearly, Sea Shepherd's stated purpose is to sort of go break the law to stop the whaling because it's justified. And so there's no question to me that they broke the law. At the same time, and as someone who's sympathetic to Japan's side on this, I don't think it's politically, they're basically going to make a martyr out of him if they bring him here and they convict him and they put him in jail for this. He's just going to get more funding, and they're going to come back and, it's going to all backfire on Japan, and Japan should really do the political calculus. To which Rochelle Kopp pointed out to me, when has Japan ever done the calculus on the whaling issue? To which I respond, that's true. 1 minute left. We are fine. Again, more memes. Gaijin Mummy, who again must be protected at all costs, using Olympic shooters as examples of personal pronouns. A watashi, a boku, a wagahai, the guy with the carbon frame. Definitely an ore. I'm very proud to be in Team Ore for this. Mascots with too much description. The Japanese Prime Minister hiding, now doing public speeches behind a bulletproof screen. Gold medalist in skating for Australia is Australian, but has a Japanese, Saya Sakagibara. is from a Japanese family, so Japanese heritage, and good on her. Nice to see an Australian Japanese thing succeeding. Yeah, the hostage exchange thing, that was interesting. Bears attacking schools, doing a simulation of that, trying to use scarier bears. It ends with the bear being shot, by the way. Yeah, this comparison is just so much. Oh, in fact, this is another one of the Japanese memes over here. The person on the left, the young worker who tells the boss, "Don't worry, leave it to me. I'm a whiz with PowerPoint." Right hand side, the boss who quietly fixes all the PowerPoint slides himself. Yeah, this is just endless memes like this in Japan. I'm sure it's been like this elsewhere as well, but he's a rock star here in Japan. I love that guy. Yes, that's me entering for the Tokyo Marathon. Anything else? I think I covered all the main topics I wanted to cover this week. Japan was, for a couple of days, at the top of the medal board, mainly because of judo. So some people saying stop the count. We had a big earthquake this week, actually. Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning, so 1:47 in the morning, but it was directly like under Tokyo. We got a big jolt. So yeah, we've had a lot of earthquakes lately. It's not good. I hope these aren't pre-shakes, but who knows? They could be pre-shakes, post-shakes, shakety shakes. All of that stuff. Japan got up to like over 40 degrees again a few days ago. It's becoming normal. It's kind of crazy. And you know what? I'm going to call it there. Yeah, I could talk about Suzuki Muni. I've talked about him before. He's on another trip to Russia. He should not be there. And he shouldn't be allowed to come back. All of that stuff. And there we go. That's all the week's topics. I am going to go and set up the after party. Aaron, you are, as always, ahead of the game. You are setting up the after. The link is already there, so come and join me there. Like I said, I'm going to do a bit of a new setup with the after party where I'm going to have one channel is going to be your requests, and the other side is going to be my responses to your requests. So, because I want to play more of my own music. I went and bought a whole lot of music today as well, so maybe I'll just go off the music that I bought today. So it's going to be super fun. The last few sessions I've really enjoyed. So if you can hang around, join me for the after party. And if you can't, well, good to see you all. Glad that you could make it. And boom, I'll see you next week. Peace. But otherwise, remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all the things, and hang around for the after party. It should be fun. See you later. Have a good week, everybody. Any stream. And starting the stream on the other thing. Why is it not ending? Okay, ending stream. Come on.